Just waiting. Okay. I'm here with Jay from Real Deal today. We've been discussing a bit about call centers because we both come from the call center industry. And we just want to cover some of the topics that we've done in the past. So, Jay, what was it that got you into the call center game originally?
Well, before I got into fiber optics and solar many moons ago, I was actually hired. I didn't actually own a call center or anything like that, but I knew the logistics of it and how it all worked. I was actually hired to basically train staff. And back then, this is a long time ago, I didn't have the knowledge of actually setting one up myself. And this was in Australia, so it wasn't over in Philippines or anything like
So,
that.
so, so it's the training was more based on sales techniques, I assume, rather than actual
Yeah, because it was
language.
that's right. It was for a telco company here in Australia. And basically, what I was doing is training the staff how to close. It was outbound sales. So you had
Okay.
inbound and outbound. And, outbound's always the hardest, as you know, with selling stuff to people, especially if you're cold calling. And
Yeah.
my job was to train the staff basically to close the sales. It was just phone products like internet connections, um, mobile plans and stuff like that. So, but I was interested though back then going, maybe I could set one of these up one day. But here in Australia, it was a very, very, very expensive operation to do. Because
I,
obviously
I
in the Western world, something.
Yeah, I think the
Go ahead.
technology's moved on a bit. It's got a bit cheaper now. Where before you need to have some pretty expensive gear. You go with the old Cisco systems. You set up with the IP phones and stuff, where you don't need any of that anymore.
Yeah, and I realised even back then, even though it was a long time ago, they had optic fibre running direct into the building. This call centre had, it was easily 700 seats. It was massive. It was a massive floor area. They had heaps of campaigns going, not just for telco companies, but this company had different contracts for like Optus, Telstra, charities, and all that sort of stuff. So they'd have different areas on the floor of different products they were pushing, and they had a lot of people working for them. And they had the automatic. I don't know much about them because I didn't get right into them, Matt. But maybe you'll be able to elaborate on it. The automatic dialers they had, so you're not actually dialing the number, and it's just doing it
Yeah,
automatically for you, call after call.
yeah. Did the ones you have all the customer information as well? So you had their address and all the information about who's actually at the house.
Yeah,
Um,
you basically didn't have to do anything. As soon as you hung up the call, it was calling the next person.
yeah,
It
that's
was like
that's it. Because it's actually
and then
dialing more calls than you can answer because it's looking for answer machines and the looking for
yeah,
dead
that's it.
numbers.
You'd get the odd fax here and there, and once it started calling the customer, the information comes straight up on your computer screen. So where they live, what plans they already had with the company, and all that sort of stuff. So you had all the information about them, basically, before they actually answered the phone. So
Yeah, so you're already off to a flying start because you already know more about them than they know about you. So you've got your foot in the door already. That's good. So was it good money? Was it a good industry to be in?
it was okay money. Like back then, I was making about. So I was in Melbourne, Victoria. That's down the bottom of Australia. I ended up down there because I was going around Australia a bit. I was just looking for work here and there, and the call center job came up through an agency, and they said, "Oh, you've had sales background experience before. Why don't you go try it out?" And I went there for an interview, and straight away they hired me. And I was making about, depending on the hours, $900 to $1,000 a week, and that was for a 5-day week.
Right.
And
So
that, it wasn't huge money, but there was no commission in it. It was just straight wage, and you could do overtime and all the rest of it.
yeah, 'cause I think
If there,
it's geared towards what do you call it? It's more about the sale, isn't it, rather than the hours. If you're doing the sales, nobody really cares. You know.
yeah, it's all about KPIs, but yet, you know, there was no commission in it. He was just on a basic wage and all the rest of it. And I was only doing it for, until something else come along. But it was a new experience and something under the belt.
Yeah.
Because I've done sales in timeshare, insurance, car sales, solar sales, and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, oh, well, I'll give this a go. It's something else that can bit of
Yeah.
experience in.
For those that don't actually know the amount in US dollars, because this is Australian dollars, about $750 a week, which isn't bad.
Yeah, for a 5-day week.
Yeah, so that's not a bad income. I mean, would you say it's a good business to start in the Philippines?
Yeah, well, that's one of the businesses I did looked at when I was in the Philippines, but I didn't think I really didn't know nothing about it, to be honest with you. I was setting it up. I know how they all work and all the rest of it, but I wouldn't know where to get the dialers, the computer software, how to get someone to set it up, what computers I need for the job. You need some space, obviously, whether you start off with, I don't know, what you can do a 20-man operation, can't you, Matt? Or you could do a 100-man operation, depending if you've got the budget. And then how do you get the contracts and stuff like that? Like, you done it, so how did you get the contracts and all that sort of stuff? How did it all work?
Well, the first thing I had was I learned how to program the dialers, which for a lot of people, they just simply wouldn't be able to do it. It's not me blowing my own trumpet, but if you're not technically minded, it's out of the scope of a lot of people, because it's basically working in a command line. It's not like using your mouse or something. So
Yeah.
So even with that, I could see people are already trying to overcharge for setting these things up. And the thing I realized is the backbone of your business. At the end of the day, if you cannot program the server and it goes down, the whole call center is down. And you've got nobody to fix it. So from my point of view is you need to know how to fix it, or at least have a spare one set up. I mean, I had a setup of 5 servers. We only actually used 2 at a time, but there was always backups that I could hot swap them if I needed. But I think realistically, I think people need to start with at least 5 people, because the dialers want 5. They don't run very well if they got like 2-3 people on them. You get people sat there doing nothing, or they're missing half the calls because they can't answer them fast enough. So the dialers just don't like it. But getting the contracts is the hardest bit. And although you can get contracts easily, I speak to a lot of people about this, because there's one thing I say to people is, if they bring the contracts, I can run everything else for them, because the contracts are the key to all of it. So many people get burned by people on things like Freelancer and these other things where they're multi-tiered, so they're probably down tier 12 or something. Everybody taking a cut above them. So getting contracts, you really need to be focused on going direct. We were dealing with like Barango Solar, American Solar, and some other companies on a sales office basis. We weren't actually.
When you say that you were getting solar leads, you see, we actually used a company over in the Philippines when we had our solar company here, and they were charging us it was about $25 a lead at the time.
Yeah.
And we get 200 leads at a time. All right, we'll get for these guys and we'll give you a call back. Closed a lot of them though. It was good.
Yeah, because we prefer to do live transfer, because that way it's a solid lead. It's up to, once it's live transferred, they instantly know if they can close it or not. Oh, they haven't got the deal, they haven't gone to the house yet. From the call center view, we've given them a live lead. If they can't close the deal, it's not our problem, because the sale's there. We've done the hard bit. As you know yourself, you've got to have good closers though, otherwise you're just wasting money. But yeah, I mean, we were getting on a good lead somewhere between $70 and $90 per lead for the US market. If we're dialing like New York, it's only about 45, maybe 65. It seemed like it was a saturated market, but one of the big problems was, even though people were interested, they couldn't actually have solar because of the location. So I think that's why the leads were cheaper there, you know, because a lot of them were, they just simply couldn't fit the systems. So obviously they've gone out there, looked at it, and they just can't get it in there. So that's
Yeah,
why.
we had that same problem where you'd go out to the house and the roof's rusted, and here in Australia you can't put a solar system, the racking on a roof that's rusted out. A bit like the Philippines roofs, you know, you see they're all rusted out.
Yeah, I've never
Yeah,
seen
if
paint.
it's like that, you're not allowed to put a solar system on it. They have to actually replace the roof.
Right.
It's actually
Why is
illegal here.
that? Why is that? What's the? Is it still
Because they reckon the
shorting out?
roof, well, the solar system will last longer than the roof. So the roof will cave in and the solar system will still be on there because it's got rust on it. And it only needs a little bit of rust, and I'll say, nah, it needs to be replaced.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know.
So,
But with the call center right, industry, if you're going to do something like that, Matt, right? Because I did think about it. Honestly, I did think about it when I was over there. I thought about a lot of stuff, what I'm going to do. If you're going to set up like a 5-man call center, you're going to need an area, you're going to need your computers, you're going to need all your software and all your gear and all the rest of it. You're going to need a good optic fiber connection, I guess.
yeah.
How much budget would you think you'd come in at trying to set something like that up?
Well,
How
the
much budget
first.
do you think you need?
Well, with your server, your main server, would probably set you back about 20,000 pesos. Now that would be good for up to 30 agents. The reason it gets restricted at 30 is not the actual server; it's the restrictions that the bandwidth on the internet could do. So you can only get about 30 on one of the lines. The computers for the guys, I was spending 15,000 pesos per machine. So you're looking at 5 machines times 15,000 for those. Then you've got obviously your own machine, which you may or should already have, because you don't need to buy a new computer just to sit in the office and look nice if you've already got one. Because you're not actually doing the sales, you're managing the client and trying to bring in more deals. But then, like the furniture is, you can start off with desks, but I recommend actually getting some guys in to actually build some cubicles. The reason being is you can soundproof them, because one of the big problems I had is the sound vibration around the room. It's all right when we had like 4 or 5 people, but when we got up to 16, it sounded like a hen house, and we were having to put
Yeah, yeah.
some acoustic stuff in there, trying to dampen the sound. But it was still loud. It didn't matter what you did; it was still loud. So yeah, I would say for an initial setup, probably 50, probably about 100,000 for absolute minimum. But I would say you really want to be spending about 150 just to get you going. But then you've got your budget. You got to have
And
your budget.
wages and stuff,
Yeah,
and
because you're going to
lease
get
and yeah.
burned. The first few weeks you're going to get burned, because
Mm.
you're going to have people not selling. You've got to go over the sales technique, and you're drumming it into them day in, day out, trying to get them to close the deals. And once you get that, it just suddenly starts taking off. But yeah, I mean, when I opened mine, I expected to lose money for the first month.
Yeah.
And we actually broke even. You know, the first couple of weeks we made zero, but the last two actually paid for the first 2 weeks, you know, as people started to sell. So I would say you've got to expect to lose money, but that's why you start with 5 and not 50, because you've got to train the guys.
And just build on that.
Yeah, you just
Build on
build it
that.
up, because you've got to be very hands-on. There's no point getting other people in to do it, because although they say that they can do this and do that, I found that a lot of people just let you down. You know, if they're not closing the deals, nobody's making money. They're burning a hole in your pocket. So, you know, it's one of those things that you've really got to focus on. I've got 2 good girls that they come from another call center, because the one they were working at burned down. But they were quality controllers. So those guys just sit there and they're listening to everybody else's calls, and they're pulling the guys up as they come off the phone going, you're doing this wrong, you're doing this wrong. And that's all they do. They just sit there and complain at everybody. But it's very, very good to have. And it's one thing I recommend is keeping the quality control high. Because if you don't, you get people closing sales that aren't really closed deals, and then you start getting hassles from the client. So it is important, the quality is there. because otherwise you're burning your own bridges all the time. So when you were doing it, was there any specialist equipment that you needed at the time?
No, it was just well, they had a lot of equipment, and they had their own IT staff and everything if stuff went wrong. So it was a huge operation. And you know, the way I looked at it back then was like, this would be impossible for something for me to do. But then when I was over the Philippines, I was saying, oh, you know, there's a couple of people starting up little call centers here and there of only a small amount of people. So it must be, you know, too much capital to go into it to get something like that started. You don't have to go big. But I also looked at too as well. I was thinking, well, you know, you got your outbound and then you got your inbound.
Yeah.
Wouldn't there be more money with inbound, or you're doing like a service for someone, you know what I mean? Like it could be, I don't know, fixing up their phone plan, or they're just calling in, you know what I mean? So it's not like you're closing people, they're calling you for help. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's an expansive market, and that's where I think where a lot of the cold calling is actually going, because the virtual assistant stuff is growing significantly all the time. But also, a lot of the sales leads are coming in online because you know when you fill in a sales form or I'm interested in hearing more about solar or whatever online, it actually invites somebody to call you back, and I think that's where a lot of the business is going, where they're actually engaging with people that are actually saying, I'm already a lead, rather than the phone bashing, which I think is actually a better system from a customer point of view. They're not getting 20 calls a day, but instead phone up and say, I want to change my gas provider, change my electric provider, etc. But I do think there's a lot of market there for incoming stuff as well, not just on the sales side, but things like accounting, dealing with customer queries, problems with routers, all that sort of stuff. And I know from the UK side, there's a lot of scope for doing it in facilities management because a lot of the offices are going from places like central London where it's expensive. So it makes sense to have a fairly large call center handling all the issues for a business, you know, because if you're a big company, you could probably hire 100 people, you know, because I mean, the company I was working for before has, I think it's 20,000 employees or more. So, you know, dealing with everything from payroll to accidents to holiday entitlement and all that sort of stuff, you do need a lot of back office staff. So yeah, I'd say there's a big opportunity there. It's just pricing the business off some of these companies. They're a bit paranoid with the information. You know, they don't want it going offshore, and they don't want people being aware it's offshore when it is offshore. So it's
yeah. Well, they're pretty. Like you said, they're pretty strict over there because I made a video, and I'm not going to mention the company, the call center, but let me put it this way: they're pretty big in the Philippines. And me and another guy, that Wendell idiot, actually walked into one, and they actually thought we were someone else that just got off the plane this morning. They thought we were clients. And they
yeah.
just gave us the pass tags, and we went straight upstairs to the managers, and it all just blew out of proportion. I had the security come to my house a couple of days later. They wanted me to sign a confidentiality agreement. They were freaking out. You know, it was just, it was a big thing. And we just thought, oh, we're just going to see the manager. Because at the time, my friend back here in Australia wanted me to go because he was just finding it hard trying to talk and get in contact with people that had call centers in the Philippines. He wasn't getting anywhere. He said, look, Jay, you're there. Can you just walk into one of these joints and sort it out for me, can you? Find out how much it is for, I think he wanted 10 seats or something like that. So I've gone, yeah, I know where one is. It's actually down the road at a big shopping centre. And these guys have got a few big offices. So they're not a small call centre. They're well known in the Philippines. And we're not going to mention their name, Matt. I think, you know, I've told you about this story before.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was a big shit show. They had 10 security guards there. All the security guards literally lost their job because of it, because they let us in. They took it took a few days to get a hold of me, and then they sat me down, and there's a big breach of security. You don't understand what's happening here. People can lose their jobs. It's pretty serious. And I'm just like, we're just trying to get some prices for some call center seats, mate. You know what I mean? And totally out of control. And I said, look, I left my number, I left my email. Like, I wasn't there to spy on you guys or take information or anything like that. I was legitimately there to do business and find out some prices. And so
that sort of leads on
here in
to
Australia, there's no security guards with shotguns sitting outside the call centre. There's definitely not 10 of them roaming around inside. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can walk in a call centre here and knock on the door and say, hey, it's the secretary, can I talk to the manager? And I'll go get them for you. You know what I mean? It's not really a big deal.
I think a lot of it though
that's strange.
is because I think some of these locations aren't supposed to have their data offshore. Data security. So I think they're a bit cautious because they're. I know from historically, there's been data bought in India, for example, where they're buying all the data off the banks. People working at HSBC and things, where they're supposed to be like working for them, but they're actually stealing clients' data to sell it on. So I suppose that's the paranoia.
To other call centers. So
well,
selling it to other call centers?
Well, it could be anything. Because I mean, if you're stealing, like, say, 50,000 people's banking details with all their credit card information, so they do get a bit paranoid with it, which I can understand. Because obviously a bit of bad publicity, they can lose customers overnight. Because you instantly go, oh, I'm going to transfer out, and you cancel my bank cards, etc., etc. So yeah, I think they're paranoid, but they're justified as well. It's just like I can't see the point of sacking the security guards over it or sacking the staff. But it all depends on the client, because I know that we were dealing with a insurance company down in California. That was an absolute nightmare. The guy there was like. Just a bad guy. It's just the way he treated people. I mean, for us, we just ran it for a bit, made some money, and it's like, we don't want the headache. But I know from some of the people that actually work in his own call center physically, he does treat them quite bad. So it might be part of that. It's, where there's sort of like a second-class citizen mentality. It does get in there as well. So what would you say is your worst experience while working in the call center industry?
Probably when they want you to sell stuff. So when I was on the phones, before I got into the training part of it, which used to piss me off, they want you to sell, like with the phone, it's usually with the telco companies. They want you to convince people to go on these Wi-Fi dongles, we used to call them. A bit like a pocket Wi-Fi, what they got over in the Philippines and stuff, when they already had a connection to their house. A solid connection to their house of ADSL2 Plus, and that was the promotion. They wanted us to convert people over to this, which was useless. I know it was useless. They're not really good and all the rest of it. And I can't sell something that I don't truly believe in. As soon as I don't know about this product, I feel like an asshole trying to sell it to people. Yeah, so I used to just keep selling them mobile phones on the promotion. They used to get the shits of me and pull me in the office. Oh, you can't do this, Jay. I said, I just sold 10 mobile phones. Oh, yeah, but this is the promotion. I said, I just sold 10 mobile phones worth $2,400 each contract on 24 months to the company. That's over $20,000 in 8 hours, and you're worried about a shitty little Wi-Fi, a pocket Wi-Fi. And I said, I don't want to sell it.
I think the problem you get is they're on bonus for transferring so many units or whatever, so they're not concerned about them. Even though it's a better deal, it's not a better deal for them.
Yeah, well, I just said, well, then transfer me to a different promotion, you know what I mean? And they did, because I explained to them, I sat down to the boss and I said, mate, I cannot sell something I don't believe in. I know this is shit. Would you buy it? Oh, no. I said, well, why do you want me to flog it to everyone else? You You know what I mean? We know
Yeah.
it doesn't work. We know it's got shit coverage. Like, why are we selling this to people for? Well, that's what the client was. I said, I understand that. Put me on another promotion because or I'll leave, I said. And because I was one of the top sellers there, they didn't want to let me go, you see, because it's hard to get a good person that sells consistently every day and hits his KPIs, exceeds his KPIs. So they didn't want me going anywhere. So I used to push the puck a bit with these guys, and because I did sell a lot and stuff, and I was good at training people. So they wouldn't get rid of me. So in the end, I just left anyway, and that's when I got into the solar.
Yeah.
Started building a company for myself and stuff.
How did you find the solar, by the way? Not slightly off topic, but how do you find it as a business?
Oh, I loved it. Yeah, it was good. It was really good because, like I said, we'd get the leads from Philippines, and we got in contact with this company. It was me and Andy that owns Jandy Bar, and we got in contact with this company, and we wanted to get some leads, and and they said, oh, give us all the, and we said, no, we don't want you to close any deals. We don't want that. All we want you to do is find the people that are interested. We'll close the deals, and we'll go see them and sell them. You know what I mean? All you're looking for is people that are interested in getting solar. I don't want you telling them nothing, because what happens with these people that are over in the Philippines that don't know the product, don't know what they're selling, and people start asking questions, right? I say, when they start asking questions, you say, that's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. I'll get a consultant to get in contact with you that knows the answers to it. That's what we
Yeah.
wanted them to say. Because I don't want them saying, oh, these panels are this or this is that, and you're going to have no electricity bill, which is not the case. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And something we call it pitch and heat. It's called
There,
pitch and heat.
there was you say that there was a funny thing that happened at my call center, which I still remember now, is you were saying that because they went through somebody's calls because their hit rate went up through the roof, and I was listening to the calls, and it's like, what was it? Is it's free? Everything is free. It's like that was the bit. Yeah, the whole
Yeah,
system. It's like what
the appointment's free.
yeah.
The appointment's free for the salesman to come over there and talk to you about it, but you'll be paying for it after that.
Yeah, so because the
Yeah,
thing is,
so
I review all the recordings. That's the bit they don't realize. So before they go to the client, I listen to them. And it's like, yeah, it's free. Everything is free. And it's not going to cost me anything. No, everything is free. Like, no, the guy's that.
where everyone wants something for free. But but that's what we done. And then I was calling them. Okay, so they're interested. So I've got 10 people that are interested. I've got to close at least half of them, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If not, 60% if I can. So we got the leads and all the rest of it, and I started calling them. And through those 10 leads, you'd sift out 4 to 5 of them were bullshit anyway. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? They're like, oh, I wasn't really interested, but the guy wouldn't let me go. And it's like, oh, all right. So now
We'll
I've got
let
to
him
try and
breathe.
convince him again and turn him around. So why wouldn't you be not interested? It's the best thing under the sun. What's your electricity bill now? And I start going to that, oh, it's $800, every 3 months. I said, well, and I'm looking at your house right now because I had this program where I could zoom in on their house, and they took it off. We were using it for a while. I could actually measure their house with this tool, their roof.
Yeah.
So, and it was free, but then they got onto it and they had to pay for it. I forget what it was called. I used to use it a lot. I said, well, I'm looking at your house now at 18 Lockyer Street, and with the size of your roof on the north-facing side, you can actually fit a 5-kilowatt solar system out there. Now, based on what you're saying and your electricity use, and you say, it's mostly at night time, you've got 4 air conditionings going, you've got 3 kids and all the rest of it, everyone's at school and at work, you'll be banking your 44-cent tariff all during the day, and it's going to take care of 600 of that over the quarter, so your bill should be around the 200 mark.
Yeah.
So that means the solar system will pay itself off in 4 to 5 years. Is that something you want to know about, John? It makes perfect financial sense. Wouldn't you agree, John? Then soon he's going, yes, yes, yes. So we'll come around and have that appointment, John. Yes. When is a good time for you?
But
And we'll go around and we'll just close them.
for a bit of advice for people out there as well, you can use Google Earth to actually measure people's roofs and stuff because it does actually work. Also, you can. I don't know if it's the same issue in Australia, but in certain places, depending which way it's facing for the solar panels, affects obviously how much energy you're absorbing every day.
North side's the best side to have it on. You know, if you haven't got a good north side, you can go half north, half west. That's what I usually go.
Yeah.
But with Google, I know you can do it on Google, but there was another program which we were using, and we were using it heaps. And then one day we logged into it because it was free. Next minute they got membership for the site, and it was something ridiculous, like $1,000 or something like that to use it. You know, we're like, you know. So we stopped using it, but it was a great tool. So you could basically measure it out or get a fair idea of what size you can fit on there. And so the installer would know before he gets around there. You can see his roof. You can tell the guy, well, it's this much by this much. You have no problem getting this on, you know. And while the guy's on the phone, you'd say what sort of switchboard you got. If it's a porcelain breakers, you know, you have to replace the switchboard, so we'd know that already. So that's $800 to $1,000 on top of the fee. So I'd work everything out, you know, how they're going to pay for it, everything, and sold it before the installer got round there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
and sometimes I'd do it over the phone and take their credit card details and take their deposit, and they pay the balance on installation over the phone. Well, even going out and seeing it. That's how good I am, Matt, though.
Yeah, that's show me the money.
Yeah. And like you said, how was it? Well, you know, I was working not even 6 hours a day because there were certain periods I could only do it, right? So I'd do a little bit in the mornings to catch some people, and I'd do the rest about after 5, 6 o'clock at night. I could only call, I think it was to 9 o'clock, because that's when everyone got home from work, you see. Everyone's out at work, so there's no point calling them at 1 o'clock in the afternoon because they're not there, unless they were retirees. But I'd get that information, you know what I mean? Are they working or are they retirees, you know what I mean? So it was only like, 6 hours work a day, 5 days a week, but sometimes I worked Saturday because I knew a lot of people were home and get a couple of deals. And, you know, you're making $3 to $4 grand a week.
Yeah,
a week for sitting. And I was running this out of my desk here at home.
So
I didn't even have an office. I didn't have a shed. I didn't have any of that stuff.
Here's the big question. When all the subsidies were cut, how did it affect the business? Because I had the same thing happen.
It affected it big time. You couldn't give it away after that. The thing is, it was here in Queensland, it's different in every state, right? So it was a 44-cent tariff. So it was 22, this is at the time we were paying 22 cents for a kilowatt of electricity. So that's like you giving me $1, Matt, and I give you back $2.
Yeah.
You'd do it all day long, wouldn't you?
Yeah, it's free money.
So that's what it was like. So people were getting, people are putting a kilowatt of electricity into the grid, and for that, they're going to get double than what they pay for it. So their bill goes into huge credit. Sometimes they won't get a bill. Sometimes they'll have a very small bill.
Yeah.
So that means the solar system, they're spending about 13 to 14, depending on what size it was paying itself off in 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
So it was a huge return on investment. So people are going, hang on a minute, and they're going to last for 25 years. And I'm going to get this feed-in tariff to the year 2028. This is a good deal. And I explain it to people. Look at this. You know, you're spending this money anyway. Look, you're spending $800 a quarter. You do that 4 times a year. And there's your $3,200. Even if you go the finance, it's only an extra $500 a year, but you're saving over $3,200. You know what I mean? Yeah. Anyway, so it's paying for itself. And you know, what else can they do? It just makes sense. You know, and they just done it. But then when they cut the tariff and turned around and said, we're going to drop it down to 8 cents. So it wasn't even what you were paying for a kilowatt. They're going to give you 8 cents now. Now, this goes for the new customers that come aboard from there on in. All the other customers that signed up for the 44-cent tariff, they got that to the year 2028. We've actually got it here at home. But the new customers come aboard, they're only going to get 8 cents. So that means the return on investment goes to 10 to 12 years. So it's not more appealing now. Yet the solar's the same price. It's not getting any cheaper. So the market sort of took a downturn. commercial started coming up and looked more viable, but they didn't with commercial. They didn't want to put a feed-in tariff for anything over 5 kilowatts. Now they've just recently changed that. Now it's over 30 kilowatts, which is a big system. So I looked at it the other day, actually. I was sitting there having a bit of a read on the Clean Energy Council website.
Yeah.
So it just made people, and what I tried to explain to people, that the solar, and you had the rebate as well. So you get about 4 to 5 grand off a solar system. All right, but that's not the big thing, the rebate. The big thing is usually the tariff. If you haven't got a good tariff, it's not really a good return on investment, really. But I said to people too as well, I said, like this solar rebate and this tariff and that, this is to get the solar industry going. This is what this was for. It was going to fade out anyway.
Yeah, it's
the
well,
thing
it's a kickstart.
They faded it out too early. Yeah, it's a kickstart. The thing is, they faded it out too early when it wasn't supposed to be faded out because too many people were taking up the offer. Yeah. Queensland is packed full of solar systems. If you get anywhere in Queensland, you get on Google Maps and just look at roofs and scroll through suburbs anywhere in Queensland, and look, every third, fourth house has got a solar system on it.
Yeah, because I know
you see it. You just scroll through it.
I know because I worked for Carillion before, and they got stung big time because they actually invested millions gearing up for like the boiler scrappage scheme, the energy efficiency, and all this, and then it all got scrapped. It cost about 2,000 jobs from all the different people in the engineering sector that were involved because they were ramping up for it to suddenly find there was no market for it. I know in the Philippines it cost me. The problem is bad timing in the Philippines anyway, because we had the earthquake, had the typhoon, and then the market had changed around the same time, which is why we suddenly thought, you know what, this is time to go to Europe. We'll sort it out once we get settled in Europe. There's no rush because without the solar industry, that was our big payout. You're basically back at day one, and I think that's probably the biggest risks with call centers. Is when you lose your main client, it can kill the entire business overnight. And it's nothing you've done. The market moves. I know.
That's what I say. The environment can change. When environments change, whether it's government or something else, businesses can go downhill really quick.
Yeah, I
mean, what the fuck? What's going on here? They cut that tariff. When they cut that tariff, we're just like, oh no, man, I was on the easy street. You know what I mean? Sitting at home, working out of my home, and making $3,000-4,000 a week.
Well, we were averaging 35 leads a day, which is 35 leads a day at $70 each. So we're making good money week in, week out, and that was on that campaign. And then I had other people doing some other stuff. So we're making really good money. But when they changed it was you couldn't give it away. Nobody wanted to buy it. But also because of the legal disputes going on, people are like, well, I don't know what I want to do yet because I'm waiting to see if they're going to. Because it's not only like maybe they won't give you any money, but it could be like Spain where they actually want you to pay for having a system because they will not give you any money for what you pay back to the system, but stuff you use, they're looking at getting some money off you per kilowatt on what you would have paid. So there's absolutely no incentive to have solar in Spain, which is absolute madness considering it's got like so much sunshine here. That's the one thing everybody's here for. But yeah, it's strange business.
It'd be viable in the Philippines as well. It'd be viable in the Philippines, but they haven't got a solar bonus scheme. They haven't got a scheme in place on how it's going to work and how you're going to get paid for the STCs and all that.
Well, it's called brownout. It's called brownout in the Philippines.
Listen to me. You have battery backup on a solar system there. You wouldn't have a brownout problem again.
No. But the thing
is, you really wouldn't. But it's very expensive to set up.
But the thing is, in the Philippines, they've got problems. That's why they've got power rotations. They don't produce enough electricity. So it's one place that should be with open arms saying, give us some more electricity for the system because we haven't got enough production. It's
and you got a lot of people that are jacking off the grid, doing their home jobs, just wiring themselves up. So you got a large bit of the population stealing power as well.
Yeah.
So that's power that's not accounted for and it's getting used, you know. And I've seen it from my own eyes. I've seen them do it. Like,
They just tap in off the neighbor, off the
yeah,
it's
it's
rife.
crazy.
I don't know how bad it is, but I mean it's why the electricity is so expensive. There's so many people stealing this stuff. It's I mean the
It
funny thing,
is pretty crazy. But
when we opened
go
the
ahead.
internet cafe, the electricity bill in our place used to be 300 pesos a month. And then we put the internet cafe in with, I think it was like 15, 16 computers. And the bill was 2,000. And the electric company sent somebody to go and find out why it suddenly spiked. We actually sent somebody around because they were
I was running
wondering.
all the computers.
Yeah, it gone from like 300 to 2,000 in the space of a month. And they were, they're wondering, is somebody stealing it or what's going on? And they will actually go and send
Mm.
somebody around just to have a look. Um, but yeah, there is reasons why it's expensive. But I agree. I think the Philippines should embrace renewable energies, especially if they can get people to pay for it themselves, because it takes them off the grid, which is one thing that quite simply is not fully functioning. It's overloaded.
Yeah, look, if I was gonna, if I had quite a bit of money and was going to buy a house there and all the rest of it, I'd definitely look at going battery backup system with the solar. Definitely, because you just charge the batteries get charged up through the solar. You've got two different inverters. They circulate the current. They fill up the batteries. The batteries are full. They can go down the grid or whatever because they've got no bonus scheme, obviously. And
Yeah.
then once the batteries start emptying, they top themselves up again. But if there's a brownout, you're not paying for power.
Yeah, that's
Your
it.
power will never go off. And the thing is, your banking power, so your bill, would be. I don't think you'd even have a bill if you had battery backup there. You wouldn't
I
even have a bill
suppose
unless it rained for a week straight. And even when it rains, your panels still get a bit of
charging.
energy from.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a little bit, but they still do. You know what I mean? But that's when you'd have a backup 2 kilowatt Honda inverter generator. You know, you plug that in, you have the switch where it plugs in, because I've seen people do that. You run that for a couple of hours and that charges your batteries up.
Yeah, that's
You
it.
know what I
Just
mean?
do a
You have
top
that as a
up just to
backup
get
as
it
well,
going. But I suppose
just to get it going.
I think the thing is, I think in the Philippines there's a market for like what I call a life support system. Like even if it's just to run your ACs or your wall fans or the refrigeration, just so that if you do have a brownout, it just keeps the refrigeration and the room temperatures cool, even if nothing else. So even on smaller systems, it's still something people should have a look at. But I do know their prices are coming down. I mean, I remember looking before, even for a solar water heater, it was crazy money. I'm just thinking, but they're just pipes. They're not that expensive. But I remember, I think one was 150,000 pesos, a place along Mandawi in Cebu, and the same one now is 24,000. Because I seen it in one of the hardware stores. I can't remember the same manufacturer, but it's gone from 150,000 to 24,000. Because I'm looking at
Mm.
putting solar water heaters on my roof, because I've got quite a large flat roof, and then adding some panels later. Because I think give it another 5-10 years, the panels will still come down in price. Um, but I mean, I think you mentioned this before about the inverters, the importance of the inverters over the panels. Maybe you want to explain that a
Yeah,
bit more.
yeah, they're very important. Like you got to have, you go the German SMA inverters. Um, they're just quality. Like if you go the Chinese ones, they catch fire, they break, they don't do the job. They don't do
That's the
the
Sunny
DC
boys,
power
isn't
and
it?
AC power quick enough. Yeah, Sunny Boys, they're great.
Yeah,
And you
because
got the tri powers up from that, and you got the bigger ones that goes into commercial, all that sort of stuff. Also, Aurora, it's an Italian brand.
yeah, I know. Yeah,
Aurora inverters as well. Yeah, so them, or but I prefer to go to SMA German ones. But yeah, they're the heart of the solar system. They're like the engine of the car. So the
yeah,
panels are You can get any panel. The panels are panels. 99% of them are made in China.
Yeah.
What I used to use is Trina Solar. They're the panels I'd used to use. So, you know, you got monocrystalline, you got poly. So what you can do with the poly is, because they got a low voltage on them, just say you got a 5 kilowatt system, you could load the SMA up inverter with 5.5 kilowatts of power. So you got an extra 250 watt panels.
Yeah.
And the inverter can take it, because the thing is, when the sun's at its peak, the inverter's at its peak and it slowly builds up and slowly goes down. So that's why you got to put the extra panels on there to beef it up, so it's really working that inverter and bringing in the electricity for you. So you load them up. It's a common practice. A lot of people do it.
Well, the thing is,
Because you got 5.
you're going to have off
Go ahead.
days. You're going to have off days with the sun anyway, aren't you? So extra panels isn't going to hurt
Yeah.
it.
No, you can't overload it and go too stupid. But okay, just for an example, just say you got a 5 kilowatt system, so 5,000 kilowatts, right?
Yeah.
It's probably only running at 4,200 all the time, you see.
Yeah.
But if you load it up to 5.5, it's probably running at 4.9 kilowatts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to load them up, and that's what I explain to customers all the time. You've got to load them up to get the maximum out of them, and pay the extra for the inverter. Because what the salesmen used to do, there was a lot of they cracked down. There was a lot of dodgy salesmen companies especially in Queensland, because they had the 44-cent tariff. It was the highest. Actually, Victoria was 66 at one time, but they got less light hours, so it worked out evenly the same anyway. But a lot of dodgy sales people and companies were going around, because when you think solar and you don't know nothing about it, you just think of a solar panel. You don't know about this inverter.
No.
Because I didn't before I got into the industry, right?
Well,
So what they do is they keep the customer focused on the panels. They don't mention the inverter. And because they got a shitty Chinese inverter, they don't want to bring that up. They don't even talk about it. These are the best panels, you know what I mean? They're all good panels. They're made out of silicon, the most abundant material on this earth. They don't break. Every solar panel I put in, they just don't break, mate. They're going for 25 years. I've seen solar panels when I was a little kid. Back in my hometown, I went back and they're still going to this day, and they're over 30 years old. And they're still going, just the old hot water solar systems back in the day. So if they focus on the panels, the customer doesn't ask about the inverter, which is just a piece of shit Chinese inverter. Then they get it installed and all the rest of it. And then 12 months later or 2 years later, the inverter packs out and they're like, what's going on? What's wrong with my solar system? Then they have to go out and spend $4,000 to $5,000 for a decent German SMA inverter. Because the Germans perfected the solar.
well,
they got...
I think Germany's 80% solar now, up to the nuclear scare.
Yeah. They had the right idea. So yeah, they came out the best inverters. So
I've just had a thought relating to the inverters, because I know on the mobile sites, you know, I've got a 200-watt panel on the roof of my van. One of the things I was looking at is a lot of the cheaper inverters, you've got to put a bulb or something on there for load, because it doesn't detect that the batteries are fully charged. Have you had that on any of the household ones with the cheaper inverters?
no. And then again, I've never touched the cheaper inverters, so I don't. I've seen them on houses. I've seen them where they've caught on fire and they're burnt out and stuff like that. But they're just cheap Chinese knockoffs, and I've never really played with them. You know what I mean? But with the SMA ones,
they don't have the
Go
same
ahead.
electronics in them. That's the thing. They don't do the same sensing, and they're just cheap. No other word to describe it.
It's just. Yeah, that's about it, you know. And the reason why these solar companies do that and sell them to you is because they make more profit.
Yeah.
If they're selling, if you got a company selling a Trina solar panels with an SMA inverter for $12,000, and you got this other company selling Trina solar panels for $12,000 with a Chinese inverter, they've already saved themselves $3,000 off the bat. $3,000 to $4,000 because they haven't got the SMA inverter. So that means their profit selling the same system but different inverters, they're making an extra $3,000 to $4,000 on top of their rebate scheme. So they were just milking it. When the solar first came out, they were selling solar systems for $25,000, $30,000, but the panels were a lot more back then. You know what I mean? But
yeah,
that's a lot of money.
they've dropped a lot. The solar panels have dropped a lot in price. And I think the technology's advanced a lot now. I mean, I know with the vehicles, they've got these flexi panels, which are really good. But there's a lot of new designs coming out as well, so they get more. What do you call it?
They bring out the nano panels. So they got the poly panels, and you got the nano panels that are coming out. You got your monocrystalline panels, and these nano panels. Last time, I haven't looked at it for a long time, ever since I finished up with the solar. But as I was leaving the industry, they were saying all these nano panels are going to start coming out. I dare say they're probably already out now, but I haven't really done the research. So they're apparently the better panels to have now. But I don't even know if they're out or if they continue to do it, because I used to be right into it and, you know, watching all the forums and you know, watching all the videos, and yeah, it was good. I was actually excited about doing it. It was a good industry to be in, because you're helping people out and you're selling if you've done the right thing and sold them the right products. So when you ring them up after the first quarter and say, how's your electricity bill? And they go, Jay, you wouldn't believe it, for a whole quarter it was like $61.
Yeah.
It was usually $800. And they're like, Rat, I said, fantastic. Can you write me up a review, basically, you know what I mean? And I'd do it, and I'd just put it on the website and stuff. So it was good. So I was making good money. I was doing something that I liked doing. I was helping people, and I was explaining why that, because they used to say, you get the people that go, well, how come this solar system's only $6,000 and yours is 13? I said, well, look what you're buying.
Yeah.
Have you had a look at what you're buying? But they're the same panels. And I said, no, look at that little box there. What is that? Oh, I don't know. That's the inverter. That's like your engine to your car. You're buying a dummy. That's what you're doing. And you explain why and show them why. And then they go, I said, it's like when you buy anything. You got good quality, you got bad quality of everything you buy. Whether it be a pair of shoes, shirts, a phone. You can buy a shitty phone for 2,000. It's going to make phone calls. It's going to get on the internet for 2,000 pesos or whatever. You can buy a good Samsung Galaxy for 34,000 pesos. They both do the same things, but you know what? One does things a lot better and more efficiently.
Yeah,
it's exactly the same with everything. And that's how you explain it to them, and they go,
It reminds me of one of the guys I was working with. He was one of our apprentices years ago, because he went to the pound shop to buy screwdrivers, and he said, it's like, I got these screwdrivers. You know, obviously it's £1 each, and he's like, I said, yeah, but we work on they're still low voltage, but we're working on like 415 volts, etc. I says, I wouldn't trust those screwdrivers. He says, yeah, but it says it's safe for 10,000 volts. It's like, you do realize if it's wrong, it's going to kill you. Yeah.
I'll be right,
like,
attitude.
Yeah, but it's like, yeah, but it was only £1. And it's like, that's not how this works. The reason you buy the good stuff.
You know what? You get what you paid for.
Yeah, burnt fingers. But yeah,
so I say to people, you get what you paid for, you know.
But that's it. I think that's why I get frustrated with laptops, because a lot of them are made in the same factory now. Toshiba used to make really good laptops, but they moved the factory from the Philippines to China, and it just declined rapidly. You know, everything seems to be going the same way, and it's like, I don't know what's going on with some of this stuff. I mean, Germany, I've got to admit, I've always admired the fact that they put quality ahead of anything else. I don't see them, except for obviously the Volkswagen emissions thing, but beyond that, they generally put the quality first. I spent a bit of time in Germany, and it's always been like that. The mentality's there for it, to build it well, build it to last.
It's like Apple. I think the stuff's made. It's actually made in America, but it's assembled It's assembled in China now.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that the phone's made in California, but they're actually put together in China and then sent back.
Well, I think they're heavily tied with Sony. I mean, I remember when it used to be Macintosh before it became Apple, and Sony used to try and distance itself, and it's like, I think they're the same company. The even though they go, oh, it's nothing to do with us. It's a bit like EMI. It's Sony EMI at the end of the day. But the thing is, their quality, because Sony's mentality is about quality, because they started without, you remember those old little transistor radios used to have a little round dial on them, and you'd flick it on and it'd have the speaker. They're like a little brick you'd put in your pocket, a little transistor radio, and then the spin dial used to, like, for tuning and turning it on, etc. That's where Sony started, and that's why they're quite aggressive on their competitors, because they know that they started with something so simple in wooden sheds and become what they are today. So that's why their quality is always good. So yeah, I think that's the thing with Apple. It's the same sort of ethos, and the way they work, the quality's there. They do seem to put a lot into it, where a lot of other companies have gone bottom line. Show me the money. Let's move it to China. We can make it 30%.
It's like Holden here, which is a big car brand here in Australia, which was all manufactured here in Australia, and now they've closing their doors and heading overseas to do their manufacturing. So there's like a lot of jobs lost with that. I get the point in a business view. It's cheaper manufacturing and all the rest of it. I get that.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not always quality. And at the same time, a lot of people are losing a lot of jobs, you know what I mean?
Well, you get to the point that you're not producing anything. And I think that's where the UK is going. It's outsourced so much that you sit there going, what do we actually produce? Because everything's like been stripped away. I mean, I know Australia used to get a lot of our shipping. We used to construct a lot of ships, but a lot of that went to Australia, and probably Australia is losing it to somebody else now. But it's always like everything's getting taken away by somebody doing it cheaper. It's not people doing it better; it's people doing it cheaper, which is a concerning thing, because if things keep going cheaper, it's not improving on the last technology. It's just going for the bottom line and nothing else. And I think that's a worrying trend, because people aren't investing what they should do in training and stuff to bring in the new technologies that should have replaced these things, rather than letting them just be taken offshore. So yeah, I think Australia, though, is quite busy with the mining still, though, isn't it? I think the mining industry is sort of booming still, so that's probably keep the economy going for a while.
A mine shut not long ago down in Gladstone. I forget the name of the guy that owns it. It was a tin mine, I think it was. That ended up closing. A lot of people lost their jobs too as well. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's the resources that we sell out of this country is probably the only thing that's keeping it going, really. And the farming's getting all sold up to all the Chinese. Like, they're buying huge blocks of land and sold out, mate. We're sellouts.
Everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing
it. Yeah. Except the bloody Asians.
Yeah, well, they just buy.
You can't buy houses. You can't own your own business over there. They got the right idea, but they can come over here and do it here.
That's it. Can I buy a house? No. Can I buy a house in your place? Yes. It's like,
it's like, yeah, come on over and buy what you like, and then if we go over there, no, you can't do that. It's like, hang on a minute.
It's like, it's not.
I don't get it.
We're protecting the local businesses. Well, hang on a minute. We've moved 30 factories here this month. Yeah, well, that's your fault.
It's just bizarre how they go down that line, and I don't know what they think. Like, what do you think? Foreigners are going to take over all the businesses? It can't happen, mate. Like, we let foreign investment happen here, and you know, you don't go down a street and then all the shops are just owned by people from other countries. It doesn't work like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but China's
All the small
historical.
businesses and
China's historical because they wouldn't trade with the British, and that's what started the war. And that's how we end up with Hong Kong, is because we attacked China until they traded with us, because they refused to trade with us. And then there's the whole opium trade. The opium trade opened up through India because the British Empire encouraged opium into China from India. To pay for the British tea, because the UK couldn't pay for its tea that it was getting from the Chinese. There's all these bizarre things in history, and I can see why a lot of these Asian countries don't trust Western nations, and probably Britain in particular, because it's got a history of doing bad things. Yeah, some of the stuff is, when you read up on it, you're like, they did what?
mm, mm.
So,
I just think it's just different how you can't invest in their country. I just think, well, I really can't get my head around that. There must be a reason why, but I just don't believe the reason they give you. I don't think that's a reason.
well, they say it's protecting the locals, but the locals they're protecting are normally the ones that own everything anyway. So it's not like it's affecting the poor in any way, because you're not really putting a big enough dent in the economy to make any difference whatsoever. But if you set up a telco,
The thing
then
is,
that affects
you're
the
gonna
rich.
generate jobs. You're
Yeah,
going to generate jobs for people too as well. So how's it a bad thing? You're actually providing jobs for people. So that's what I don't get. Like, hang on a minute. If I come over
well,
to your country and I start a business, I'm going to
but if you're
generate
the only
jobs for your
telco,
people.
if you're the only telco in that country and can charge what you like and have the worst service going, then you don't want somebody coming in doing it better. So
It's like San Miguel. They got the market fucking tied up, haven't they?
yeah, from shopping
It's either
malls
Red
to
Horse
pet
or
food.
it's San Miguel Light. You know what I mean? Like that's
Yeah.
it. We're not letting any other beer company come into this country. They
Yeah,
must
but
be
it's not just
making
that.
zillions.
It's the animal feeds, and they're in everything. It's like it's surprising how extensive their reach is. But I mean, those companies have been there so long. They're part of the Philippines at the end of the day. They are Philippines because they control so much.
Mm.
It's like when somebody goes, "Oh, they're opening another Gisano or they're opening another SN." I'm thinking, okay, that's more of the same shops that I've seen in all the other ones. You go to the guy that owns Greenwich Pizza and the other 10, I think it was about 10 or 14 different restaurant chains. It's all the same people with their same businesses in their just a different mall, but it's the same, everything's the same. Because I remember when
Isn't the SM Malls, isn't that owned by or somehow set up, but Chinese guys, something Kazano or something, isn't it? It's a Chinese guy that owns the malls or something?
Gisano is a separate one. Gisano, I know somebody from the family. Well, the SM Malls, another Chinoy family, because they call them Chinoys, which is Chinese Filipino, but they've been there that long. They should actually be Filipino. It's
Mm.
they've been there. They haven't just arrived. They've been there a long time, generations ago. But they're still just seen as like they're Chinese. It's like they're not Chinese. They're the third or fourth generation.
A few generations in, so it eventually ends up being Filipino owned.
Yeah, they say that, but they're still called Chinoys. That's the bizarre thing. Filipinos won't call them Filipino. They still be Chinoys. It's just something local. Something the way people are. But I mean, it's like the
Well,
Taipans.
since Duterte's come into presidency, like the what's he called? The Japanese president has come over and he's doing the big super railway or something. I've seen
Yeah,
that article up. And they just made a deal to do it. It's like lots and lots of money. You know what I mean? Like
yeah. I think they're going
big
to.
project, and so Japan's going to be doing it.
Well, I mean, I'm not. I mean, it sounds a little bit wrong, but Siba used to have a railway, but it was actually destroyed in World War II in relation to a certain country
But
occupying the country. So it's a bit bizarre if they actually build it and put it back, after destroying it. But I do think that Duterte's mindset is to try and get the infrastructure running so that the rest of the country will start to develop. Because I think once you start kickstarting it and you start to see positive changes, it starts to snowball. I mean,
mm,
the media have been giving him so much flack, both in the Philippines and globally. But at the same time, I do think he's having a lot of positive effects as well. I haven't had any Filipinos have anything negative to say, except for one that
no,
is
mm,
associated in some way with the other party. So but it's more to do with their wife or something's associated with the Aquino administration. So they're always going to have a negative related to Duterte. But I
well, he's got
do
a lot of
think
work to do. You know, he's got a big job. He's got a big job. You know, he's got a lot to be done.
you've got to change
But
so much, and the problem is it's so ingrained. It's so normal. It's very, very difficult to change so much in such a short period of time. It's
what's he got? 8 years, isn't it? Is it 8 years?
no, I don't think he's got
How
8.
long's his?
I think it's only is it only 4? I think it's not. I don't think it's 8 years. Um, Philippine. I'll Google it. I'm sure it's 4. I think.
That's why he's moving so fast. You see, he's every week he's doing something. You know what I mean? It's like Duterte does this, Duterte does that. Like he's putting plans in place. He's meeting these people. He's doing agreements. Like he's moving quick.
He has to.
Mm.
Because the problem is, though, if you look at the country as a whole and how a lot of the problems involve the people in government, it's a very difficult thing to change. And I say that from the point of view that every country has this in some form. It's the interwoven system of corporations, um, public sector stuff, private sector, and government employees and government representation is so interwoven that it's a difficult monster to change, because everything's interconnected. You find that
There's a lot of
somebody's brother,
corruption.
yeah, because you've got somebody's brother in immigration, their sisters over in customs, the other brothers, the mayor, they're all interconnected. Yeah, he's got a 6-year term, unrenewable 6-year term. So I think he could serve up to 6 years. So I think he's already done a lot already, and I know he's got a lot of negative stuff relating to the killings, but a lot of those killings were already happening anyway. So it's very difficult to get a true view on that because it's been driven by media. It's not been driven by facts. It's not being driven by local information. It's been driven purely by media. And what I've heard from people in the Philippines is they feel safer. They have no problems of going out at night. They're much happier. So I would say that
Mm.
there's been a change from people being scared of drug addicts and stuff to the drug addicts being scared of reprisals and the problems. And let's face it, why should you be scared to go out of your house because somebody needs their next fix? You know, and
Mm.
he's not randomly just going out and killing these people, which is the way the media makes it out. He's trying to rehabilitate them. He's trying to force them into rehabilitation, and that's something that
The way
the
I
UK
got
could
I
learn
got
something.
explained how it works. This is in Davao because he was running Davao, you know what I mean? He's doing it his way.
Yeah.
Jasper, which is on some of my videos, my YouTube videos, just where he lives, around the corner, there was a bloody Shabu house there where they were selling a lot of Shabu. So
Yeah.
what he'll do is he'll investigate it for a month. Right? He'll have it surveillance for a month, whoever's doing
Yeah.
it there. And then he'll send one of his men in there to actually buy the product off him. Once he's confirmed, yep, and he's surveilling it, he's got footage, he's watched him for a month. He doesn't just go, someone doesn't just walk up to him and say, that guy's selling drugs, and he goes, I'll go kill him. So
Yeah.
he watches him for a while. Yeah, that's what people think's going on, you know. That's what they
That's
think,
the
but it's not
media.
happening
That's
like
what I'm
that. He
saying.
surveys
That,
them for a while. Yeah, he watches them. He works out they are active in selling drugs. They are bad people, and then he sends the death squad round there to slaughter them,
yeah. Well,
basically. And that's what happened. And Jasper's actually seen it. He's actually seen it for his own eyes. And I
because
seen one guy in Rojas that got shot about 20 minutes before I got there. He was just laying on the ground, and he had everyone crowded around him, and he was just on the ground, blood everywhere. And I said, what happened? They said, oh, he's selling Shabu. He's being watched. I said, who shot him? They said, oh, a police officer.
yeah.
I said, oh, okay.
Because
But everyone just
April's
stands around with their bloody smartphones filming it and taking photos, and I took one look and he vomited that I actually seen it, and just, fuck, I can't sit here, and just walked off, you know what I mean?
yeah, but they're
But they
immune
see it
to
all the
it.
time. Death
Yeah, they're
is,
immune to it.
is nothing, you know?
It's it's just sort of like, have you seen a dog getting hit by a car, and just running off? It's that sort of thing, You just go, go to work and say, "Oh, I've seen a dog hit on the way in." It's that sort of. It doesn't really affect you too much, but I think that's how a lot of people see these things because they become so immune to it. It's just like, oh, there was a guy shot on the way in today. Oh. And it's just like, oh, who was it and why is it? And then it's just moved on. Nobody's really, it's not a big deal. That I think it's
Well,
so
there was an
normal.
there was an Indian guy that was shot dead a couple of blocks over from where Crust Pizza was, and
Yeah,
I was asking Jasper what happened to that, and apparently the Indians are in a lot of the loan shark industry over there,
yeah, the five
and
six.
apparently they yeah, and they lend money out and that to Filipino people. If they don't pay up, they send someone around to break their legs or their arm or whatever. Apparently he got the wrong person's legs broken or something like that, and they've just come back and shot him
Yeah,
in the street.
that's quite common.
And
It's
it's
quite.
funny, the thing is, when it happens, the streets of the Philippines are packed full of people all the time, but no one
Mm.
seems to know who done it.
Yeah, no, there's never any
It's
witnesses.
like, how can you shoot someone in a street in the Philippines, which is crawling with people like ants,
Yeah, you're
and
tripping
no one
over them.
knows who done it? No one knew who it was. It's like, come on, if I shot someone in the street, being white and foreigner, it's that guy.
Yeah, that's
But they
it.
recognized each other. They recognize each other just like we do with white people. If we were in a street, someone pulled out a gun, shot someone, you were there, you're a witness. The cops said, oh, can you come to this lineup? You'd point the bloke straight out. You go, yeah, that's him there. You know what I mean? But no one knows what happens, and there's like hundreds of people around when it happens, but no one sees a thing.
Nobody wants to be a witness.
It's
That's
bizarre.
that's the thing. Because
No one has to have nothing to do with it because they're worried about someone coming back and shooting them.
yeah,
If they're a witness, then all of a sudden they're going to go missing.
that's they don't want to touch it with a barge pole. They've already shot one
Yeah,
person. It's they don't want to be number two. But
that's exactly it. So,
yeah, because getting back to the drug stuff, April's uncle's doing these anti-drug things at the moment because he's retired from the PNP. He's an ex-PNP general. So he's doing these motorcycle things at the moment, going around trying to encourage people to move away from drugs or not get involved in drugs. But he's had like the chief of police and stuff involved, so it's growing quite big. Sorry, not the chief of police. It's the main guy for the police in the Philippines. The guy that's in the media. He's been there. He's gone down to one of his meetings. But I do think that one of the things the Philippines does need to do is sort the drug issues out. It's I know from where my family come from in Scotland, the drugs is one of the biggest problems there. It's destroying the whole place. So I can understand
It's the
deterrent
same
view on
here.
it.
It's the same here, but here they call it ice.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, Shabu, ice. It's, methamphetamine basically cooked up in the lab from pseudoephedrine and a few other chemicals that they can get from a paint store, you know what I mean, or a hardware store, and whack it up. So when you go into a chemist here, if you got a dirty cold and your nose is blocked and you need Sudafed, because that usually unblocks your nose,
Yeah.
you have to show them ID. You have to show them your ID, and it's recorded on a database. So if you're running around to all these different chemists or drugstores, as they like to call them, we call them chemists here in Australia, or pharmacies, and you're buying all this Sudafed, you're going to have the cops come knocking on your door. If you've been to 15 different chemists one day buying Sudafed, you must have one hell of a cold, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
So people are doing it here and they're whacking this shit up, and it's in every small little town. It's everywhere. And you haven't just got, uh, how do you say it, unemployed derelicts of society using it. You've got everything up to the family man, family woman, the office worker, government workers are hooked on this shit and are using it. And it's an epidemic. It's a problem.
yeah. Did
And
you
like I
did you
said,
come
every little small town has it.
did you come across rugby glue while you're in the Philippines? The addiction on that.
I've seen two young kids sniffing it just in the street in front of everyone in a bag. I
Yeah,
couldn't
because
believe it. I was walking past and they're just sniffing this glue out of a bag in front of everyone in the street.
that's because
Like you
they
don't see that here.
that's actually not them doing it. I mean, it's them doing it obviously, but that's actually somebody hooking them on it. Because I used to get involved with a charity a while back, a real one, and the woman there used to go and get the kids out of this like drug den where they basically got guys there giving them the drugs for free, get them hooked on the rugby glue. And then what happens is they go begging to get their next fix. And they create an industry out of it. I mean, they're just giving them like a cap bottle full, enough to get high on, and then they go and get high, pass out and whatever, and then they go and get some more. And they just become caught in this addiction that is being put on them. Because I think she must have had about 14 kids that
It's a
were
bit
all
like it's a
hooked
bit
on
like
this.
it's it's a bit like the government creating cigarettes, mate.
Yeah,
Same thing, but just in a commercial way.
yeah. So it's
Really.
it's just when you see it, you can understand. I mean, I can see a deterred view. If I see somebody doing that to kids, I would quite happily have his viewpoint. Because
Mm.
he's destroying these kids' lives before they've even started.
Well,
And
these
that's
kids weren't even 10 years old, mate. They're doing it.
no,
I
no,
was
no. I've
just
seen
like,
it. I've
whoa,
seen it.
these kids should be in school. I said, they
But
should
they're
be in
not.
school.
But when you talk to the kids, are nice kids. They're just not had a good life. And that's the sad
Mm.
thing is they're very easy to change in a positive way at that age. But if they stay in that sort of addiction, it gets harder and harder as they get older, because they become more toughened up and more negative. Their traits and everything are more and more negative because it's very difficult to put them into a normal lifestyle. But yeah, it's sad. It is very sad. And there is people out there that are actually hooking these street kids on these drugs or making them into street kids by getting them addicted. And it's just a sad state. And these are the things that I think the media should actually step up and actually spend a bit of time on to understand why this drug war is going on in the Philippines, to understand why these things are happening, because of how much damage it does to the country. Obviously that's just one very small piece of the puzzle, but there is major issues with drugs throughout the Philippines. Whether it's for export,
Well,
which is for you got the armed groups, or whether it's people creating problems in their area through burglaries and things like that. It's such a broad spectrum of negativity.
Yeah, and it was obviously someone importing the chemicals in to make it. So you got to
Yeah,
find out who's doing that.
yeah,
But whether they do or they don't, it's always a way that drugs are going to get into society. Um,
it, yeah.
like
It's
it happened. It was on the news. It was on the news last night, actually, in Melbourne, Chapel Street, in a club called Revolver. I've actually been there myself. Actually, someone's on that Chapel Street because there's heaps of clubs there. Someone's got a hold of a bad batch of ecstasy, and
right.
like 10, 20 people ended up in hospital, overdosed, nearly dead. Um, from these ecstasy pills. And so there's a big warning out about that. And obviously they've got into the country, or someone's made them. Obviously didn't make them right or something, because you've got the ones that are made locally, and then you've got the ones that get shipped in from overseas. And at the end of the day, you don't really know what you're taking, do you?
No, no.
And you could end up in a bit of spot of bother if you take something and think, oh yeah, this is going to be all right, and next minute you're overdosing on the ground, you wake up in hospital a few days later.
That's
So, but it's not really that is the big problem, was the ecstasy and all that sort of stuff these days, because it used to be, especially in Melbourne, it used to be the heroin and all that sort of stuff was out of control. But now it's all the ice, which is Shabu. That's what's taken over these days. And it's eating the brain inside out. So these people will do anything to get the money, for it. So then the crime rate goes up. It sends people that are good working jobs and careers. It turns them from a successful person into absolutely nothing. I've heard stories from friends of friends and stuff like that, where guys have owned successful businesses, and then they got a hold of this drug, and all of a sudden their businesses are going downhill, and it was successful, and they got nothing, and they've sold their house, and they lost their wife and kid, and then a matter of like a couple of years, what I mean? It just destroys people.
Yeah, they
Um,
deteriorate because it has a knock-on effect, because then they take more drugs because they've already got the negative life aspects. What they had on the positive side is now gone, so it pushes them even more into using it even more, because they to want to forget. Yeah, it's just a spiral thing. But I agree, it's gonna be in society non-stop, but I think it's very difficult now, because I've dealt with a lot of problems in the UK relating to drugs, through problems in social housing, through government, because of the way the people are and how much damage they do to their own communities. It's just not a good thing. There's no upside to it, because it just seems to deteriorate the whole area, in some form. Um,
mm,
'Cause it's not just damaging them; they damage the whole area. Whether they start burglaries, or they're antisocial, abusive, um, living like an animal. Well, it's a bit unfair. I don't. Some of them, I wouldn't say animals would live the same way, but they just bring the whole area down, and then it just seems to get worse, because the only people that want to live in that area are other addicts, because everyone else wants to leave, and then the whole area
mm.
starts declining.
And the thing is, with the Philippines, you've got poor areas, and these poor people, can't even, or haven't got jobs, or not making enough money to feed themselves or whatever, and they get hooked on these drugs. There's another expense for them that they can't afford,
Yeah,
because they can't afford to look after themselves anyway. So then it just turns into even worse, I reckon, because they got no social security system like here in Australia. Like
no,
there's, if you haven't got work, and like in America too as well, they got their. I know it's not much. It's not much here in Australia as well, but at least if you don't have a job, you can go to the government and get some sort of benefit to keep you going until you find a job.
Yeah, it's not
And
supposed to be
I don't know
comfortable.
if it's the same in the yeah, it's not supposed to be comfortable. It's there just to help you so you don't resort to crime.
Yeah.
I mean, like, hey, oh shit, I can't eat. I'm gonna have to rob someone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in the Philippines, they don't have that sort of um, benefit there for people. I don't know if it'll do it any good because you don't want people. But there's people that get on these benefits and just they don't want to work. And I think, how the hell can they sit on these benefits? You can't even pay your rent. Like, how do you do it? Like,
Yeah, it's a bit like me.
with a job, you're just over broke. You know what I mean?
It's a bit
Because
like
with a job, you're just over broke, let alone being on benefits.
like having a week off for Christmas. After that, I'm sort of like, primed for doing something. I can't sit around. It drives me crazy. And how, some people get into that rut of like doing it every day. I couldn't do it. It would drive me insane doing that sort of stuff. You've got to keep yourself motivated, you know. And I know it's hard for a lot of people, especially I think now there's more stuff being outsourced, but also you got things are being automated more. Even in China, I think last year they increased their automation by 50%. So that's a lot of people lost jobs to machines last year in China. But
Mm.
there's a lot of people will never find work, and it's now I know some people may find that a bit unfair to say, but it's true. There's people that will never find work because they've never had work and they've spent time unemployed. It gets harder and harder the longer they're unemployed. So
Yeah, well, they asked at your next job interview, what was your last job? Yeah, 15
school,
years ago, I worked in the supermarket. It's like,
that's
hey, so
it.
what have you been doing in between then? Oh, well, taking drugs and just chilling out.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, it's like, all right, but I'm looking for a start now. I'm turning my life around. Do you think an employer's going to, they're going to be like, they're going to go for the guy that just left his job last week and has all the experience and has
Exactly.
qualifications?
That's the
You know,
sad
unless
bit
you,
in some ways. That a lot of people will never get the start. But I've also found with dealing with some of the problem areas in the UK, you could give people £1 million and they would have no money by Friday. Um, the the mentality isn't there to actually improve themselves. They'll spend the money, they'll do, but they would not think into next week or next year or something. The life's so hard. They've got money in their hand, they'll spend it, then they'll go, how the life's so hard for them. And it's just like,
they're thinking day to day.
but the
They're
point
not
is they
thinking.
blame the world. It's like the world didn't do this. You need to turn around and say, I need to do something about my life. And
Mm.
a lot of people can't. They're just like, oh, everything's against me, and it's like,
Too hard basket sort of thing.
yeah, it's really hard to motivate people that won't pick themselves up. You can point them in the right direction, but if they aren't willing to try, you you're pushing them uphill basically, and half the time they won't go. It's like having a stubborn donkey or something that you just can't push the thing. So it's a bit sad that way. But I mean, the one thing I will
Mm.
say, at least the UK, if you sit on your backside, the taxpayers will pay for you to do so. The Philippines doesn't have that opportunity, although it does do it. A lot of OFWs have that problem. They do support their family members that don't want to work. So I've come across a few people that don't work because they've had like their mother or father's abroad, and it says there's no point you working. You only make 10,000 a month. I can send you that, and it's like it's not about the money though, is it? It's about self-respect, standing on your own 2 feet. Those is having some self-worth. That's what it's about. Is the
Well,
monetary stuff is only part of it.
if I was if if I was a Filipino and I got a job where I was working overseas, I would bank that money for 1 to 2 years, come back and start my own business. I'd take
Yeah,
that opportunity and go, right, this is an opportunity for me to make money in the Western world or whichever country you're in, which is more than my money. This is a good time to live like a peasant over there and bank the money. because I'm used to it. I should be able to live cheaply, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And fair enough, the rent and food will be more over there, but you can really budget if you really want to, and then save as much as you can, and come back to your country after 1 or 2 years and have, 2 million pesos or something, million pesos, and start up your own business. And then
Well,
it's set.
yeah, it depends where they're going, because I mean, some of the wages in the Middle East are pretty dire. Because the problem is you're competing with people that are coming in from India and Pakistan that can do it even cheaper. Because that's one of the things we found in Oman. We struggled to get Filipinos because basically the rates between Dubai and Oman were hundreds of dollars cheaper in Oman. So you couldn't actually encourage people to come there because the rates were so low. So the only guys that would actually go there mainly from Pakistan. And the bizarre thing is you're not really supposed to talk about these sort of things, but that's the reality. Filipinos are too expensive. But that's the thing. A lot of the job market, it's geared towards the support services, like nursing and the shipping industries and stuff. A lot of times they don't make great money. I know some get to a point where they are making good money, but it takes time to get there. And one of the problems they do get is when you're overseas, yourself, when you're overseas and you've got that money coming in, you can afford to send some home because you're making it every week. So they then send it home to some relative to set up the restaurant or the internet cafe or something else. And then when you go home, you find out they drank it. They haven't they haven't done anything. They've drank it. It's like, well, wait, I can send this home.
Fuck, I'd be pissed.
Yeah, even husband and wives. I know of a wife that was in Dubai. Her husband sat in the Bahal, was sent the money for the windows and all the renovations to their house, and the husband drank it. He literally drank it because she was away for 11 months. So all the money she sent back every month, he basically spent on beer. And they're still married. That's the crazy thing. Yeah. Forgive and forget? I don't think so.
There's an opportunity there to do up your house and that. You think you'd go, all right, get it all done.
Well, a lot of it is they want to go overseas, improve their lives, and then go back. But if people are just sitting there going, this person sent me money every month, hey, I'm going to enjoy this. So they come back and they go, where's all the money gone? It's like, oh, I don't know. Oh, the windows got stolen. And they come up with the lame excuses. And then you're like, oh, so they're going to do another year to pay for the stuff that they should have paid for the year before. I don't know how some people can do it. I couldn't. I'll be honest with you, I couldn't do it. I couldn't be in that situation where people do that. I don't have the patience.
Yeah, I'd just bank it all myself.
Yeah,
really. I'd bank it all myself, and if they asked for some, I'd send a minimal amount, so I know I'd come back with a chunk and set myself up. Or depending on where you're going, like I said, if it wasn't good wages or anything like that.
Well, I mean, if there's any Filipinos listening, a bit of advice is never tell anybody exactly how much you're earning. Tell them you're earning less than you really are if you have to give them that information, so that you've always got money that nobody's aware of.
Set yourself up.
Bit
of advice there. All right, Matt. Well, it's been interesting with this chat.
We went a bit off topic, but it's nice chatting.
Yeah, no, it's been good. We'll do it again.
All right, mate. Take it easy. I'm off to bed. It's 2:30 in the morning here, and I'm sure you're about to enjoy your day in Australia. So take it easy, mate.
Yeah. Take it easy. Thanks for the conversation.
And thanks for everybody who's listening. Bye for now.
No worries.